Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. The east coast township of Dolphin Sands is recovering tonight after a fierce bushfire tore through the area, destroying a family shack and blackening vegetation. The land so dry, the fire was uncontrollable for hours, creating anxiety for those in the area.
A bright glow lighting up the evening sky, this fireball spreading through Dolphin Sands last night. Usually pristine, the area now charred and blackened.
The fire was also moving in motion with the wind changes, so it was very hard to get in front of it.
This family forced to flee.
A beautiful camping spot, we thought, and then we left to get some groceries in Swansea, and by the time we were back an hour later, there was flames everywhere, smoke, the road was closed, and so we didn't know what was happening at all.
On the fire ground, you can see how close it got to beachside properties and holiday homes.
Well, very nervous, very nervous. People were worried it might jump across to Swanwick and then move through into Coles Bay townships.
Flames licked the boundaries, but fire crews arrived in the nick of time.
People have been very impressed with how quick the agencies reacted and how quickly helicopters got up in the air.
The blaze started accidentally from a hazard reduction burn that went out of control.
We believe it was from a gentleman doing a hazard reduction or burning rubbish in his backyard. There was nothing sinister about what he did, and at the moment they're still being looked into.
Authorities working through the evening on the ground, then assisted by water-bombing aircraft. Those in the area received a text message urging evacuations. The Swansea backpackers used as temporary accommodation.
So from this moment, people little by little arrived there and was looking for a place to stay the night.
The community working around the clock to ensure emergency services received food and water.
As usual, the community's rallied and it's been really gratefully accepted.
One firefighter received minor injuries while working on the blaze, but incredibly no one else was hurt. A caravan and machinery were damaged, but 2 structures couldn't be saved, including this small outbuilding. This shed was used as a family shack. It's now completely destroyed. What remains inside is still smouldering. It's a strong example of just how fierce this blaze got.
The fire crews did a great job between yesterday afternoon and this morning to minimise the loss that they have done. Is just incredible.
Tonight, crews are conducting backburning to contain boundaries, and those with properties are allowed back in after such an anxious wait. Louise Hedger, 7 Tasmania News.
The impacts of the Huon Valley fires are still being felt tonight, with Turan confirming it's had to lay off 16 permanent workers at its Southwood veneer mill after the facility was damaged in the bushfires. The timber company says they've been advised of their full entitlements effective from Monday. 10 other workers have been allocated alternative work. Turan says it's delayed its decision on the future of the mill until the full effects of the fire are known. Rogue Speaker Sue Hickey has split with the government again, voting against the Liberals dozens of times in State Parliament today. She crossed the floor to join Labor and the Greens in their support for transgender law reform. Gender-diverse Tasmanians and their allies celebrating a hard-fought win.
The Speaker arriving for a fresh parliamentary day after yesterday's tense scenes and a mystery adjournment.
I was just seeking some advice. I felt there was a fair bit of tension in the Parliament and I was needing some advice. So I was trying to get a few meetings with different people, and it's very difficult on sitting days.
Confusion reigned late yesterday as Sue Hickey paused parliamentary proceedings without notice for an hour and a half.
The House stands adjourned until the ringing of the bells.
Confirming today it was because of gender laws, which she supports, but the government doesn't.
Was this about the gender reforms?
It did have something to do with the gender reforms, which obviously I hope are brought on today just to deal with them.
What happens if they're not brought on today or this week?
It's anybody's guess.
But they did come into the lower house today, with the debate supported by Sue Hickey, who used her casting vote against the government.
In order to give this legislation the most rigorous debate, I cast my vote with the ayes.
That just one of dozens of times Tasmania's rogue speaker split with her party, crossing the floor to support the passage of transgender law reform.
The results of the division Ayes 10, noes 12, therefore the noes have it.
The lower house considering the legislation to give parents a choice as to whether they list their child's gender on a birth certificate. The government sticking to its position against amendments. The Premier saying he fears they haven't been consulted enough and could have unintended consequences.
It does not require any intention to permanently live as the changed gender, and there are no limits on the number of times that a person can change gender.
How would somebody demonstrate that to your satisfaction? Yeah. I'm not wearing a skirt today. Does that mean that I don't intend to live as the gender that I express myself as?
The reform a personal crusade for the Greens leader, whose son Jasper has experienced the transition from female to male.
And the law right now says to my child, you have to have a hysterectomy before we recognise who you are. Well, that's garbage. So we need to fix this. We support the amendment.
With the extensive range of amendments, the government needs time to look at the amendments that have been put through, to consider them.
But the time had come, the amendments passing through the lower house late this afternoon.
It's almost anticlimactic. It's been something that's taken so long and it's been such a struggle over the last 12 months with the government not at all supporting us. And we've got there.
And bear in mind that I'm a 60-year-old grandmother with a Catholic background, but I've come to see these people as people. It doesn't matter, it's about hearts, not parts.
To Tasmania leading the world.
Yeah.
Go Tassie!
Celebrations for gender diverse Tasmanians and their allies who've been fighting for changes like this for more than a decade. Michael Breen, 7 Tasmanian News.
We might not have an election date, but that hasn't stopped both sides of politics promising the big bucks for Tasmania. The government today pledged an extra $92 million for the state's health system. But Labor says the money is a band-aid solution.
Aiming to pocket votes at a Launceston pub. The Prime Minister works up a thirst in his re-election fight.
Nice to meet you, Harry.
Day 2 of his island visit began with a pitch to business.
I don't think any Australian wants to get paid more in this country as a result of their workmate having to get sacked.
Then it was on to the School of Medicine, where he spruiked a $92 million prescription for the state's health system.
Priority areas like 6,000 additional elective surgeries here in Tasmania, and for around the 1,000 Tasmanians who've been waiting for the last 12 months, your wait is over.
$20 million will be spent reducing those waiting times. Also included $10 million for a walk-in mental health centre in Launceston, $14 million for rural primary health, and a string of other promises.
Support for Headspace in Devonport and Burnie, something that's so fundamental, and support for the City Mission drug and alcohol recovery in Burnie and Circular Head.
Labor's accused the government of waiting until the eve of an election to unveil a health policy.
We've already made a commitment over 12 months ago to put $30 million into addressing the elective waiting list here in Tasmania.
Last week, the Labor leader also promised 25 new mental health beds in Launceston. Voters will soon decide who is snookered when polling day finally arrives. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmanian News.
The High Court has unanimously rejected a push by activists to be allowed to protest around abortion clinics. 2 activists from Victoria and Tasmania had been appealing convictions after protesting inside safe access zones. The legislation in both states prevents protesters from harassing people near abortion clinics. The state Labor has welcomed the ruling. Tasmanian unionists have also rallied in Launceston, making their calls for changes to workplace laws. Roughly 300 people gathered at Civic Square, voicing concerns over penalty rates and job security.
Union power! Union power! Union power! Union power!
We know that the current system doesn't work for workers. It allows bosses to exploit us, it allows them to steal our wages, to drive down our pay rises and to keep workers in vulnerable casual employment.
Unions are promising to ramp up campaigning towards the federal election. A new dog park made almost entirely from repurposed materials is close to opening. School students added a touch of colour to the site before it welcomes the first pitter-patter of paws.
In an effort to doll up the dog park, these students from Glendrew Primary had a special outdoor art class.
So the dog park can look better and the dogs can play more.
Their handiwork adds a touch of colour to the site, which is being made almost entirely from repurposed materials. The beams they're painting come from an old bridge at Burns Creek, east of Launceston, while the paving was salvaged from Civic Square during its recent upgrade. Even an old bus shelter has stopped off here.
Obviously dogs don't care too much about contemporary play equipment, but yeah, there was definitely a focus around natural elements and recycling.
Local input has shaped the Coronation Park site.
Huge input from the community. I believe what we've created here is a result of their input and their passion.
The dogs may want to play inside now, but they have to be patient. It doesn't open until Easter.
After that, the council will transform the nearby playground. No word yet on whether the students will be called up for that job too.
Miss Jill said that I'm the crew leader today.
Why'd she pick you?
Because I've got a work shirt on.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Children doing it tough at the Royal Hobart Hospital were provided with early Easter cheer this morning, thanks to a special visit from the Easter Bunny, who delivered some chocolate eggs and a few smiles along the way before hopping off to get ready for his busiest day of the year.
The Tasmanian boys side are in a strong position after day 2 of the National Under-18 Hockey Championships in Hobart. Following yesterday's 3-0 win over South Australia, the side played out a hard-fought match with New South Wales today. Tassie got off to a solid start to secure the early lead before the visitors struck back to square things up, with both sides coming away with a point on the standings with a 1-1 draw. Boxing is set to return to Hobart's Elwick Racecourse for the first time in almost a decade, and friends will turn foes as 2 of the state's toughest brawlers battle it out for the Tasmanian cruiserweight title. It's being billed as the Rumble at the racetrack with the support of one of the country's leading promoters in big-time boxing.
Brilliant place, the atmosphere's electric in here, and you know, it was just something on our minds for a long time.
Jaden Plugger Joseph puts his Tasmanian cruiserweight title on the line in the night's main event, coming off an impressive third-round knockout win in Melbourne last Friday night. He takes on old friend and former Australian amateur champion Gary Brown in what promises to be one of the toughest fights seen in Tasmania in recent times.
It's just another fight. Like Gary said, we're good friends. He used to help me train when I was with Reggie Hall, but end of the day, we're going to bash each other, and I know I'm going to beat him. We both come from the same area, got a lot on the line. I'll bet his brother, he wants to come and take it. Good luck.
I love the guy, but he got called and we got asked, and so it's going to happen. I haven't backed down from a fight yet, and I won't now. It's going to be a good fight. I'm going to come out the winner though, so that's all that matters to me.
Up-and-coming local talent Christina Mousey Jacobs will look to continue her rise in the sport against a yet-to-be-determined international opponent, while heavy hitter Matt Freshney will put on the gloves for one of the final fights of his career.
I'd like to fight Bianca O'Meara for the Australian title before the end of the year, so she just won it last week. So, yeah, by the end of the year I want to have got that.
We push for a state title shot by the end of the year, and that might do me. Getting old, so...
The bouts begin on Saturday, May 11.
You know, this is a fantastic venue. I don't think there's anything better in Tassie, to tell you the truth. Like, just how it is, how it's laid out. You know, like the city halls are really good, but, you know, it's nice to get in somewhere a little bit more modern.
There won't be no table seats left. There'll be just general standing, you know, and that's what we're after, create the atmosphere that we had 9 years ago and, you know, make Rumble at the racetrack a big event out at the Elwick every year.
Basketball and the Launceston Tornadoes are looking to capitalise on the absence of Kayla George from the Hobart Huskies side in this weekend's first local derby for the year. Hobart's women's side has started the season with 2 victories from 2 games, while the Tawns remain winless. But coach Derek Washington sees plenty of promise in 17-year-old guard Sarah O'Neill from the Northwest Coast.
She brings a lot of grit, a lot of tenacious defense. She's aggressive to the basket, and she brings an inside-out game. She can hit the 3-point shot, create for her teammates.
Tip-off is at 6 p.m. at Kingborough on Saturday before the Northwest Thunder takes on the Huskies men's side at 8 o'clock.
Good evening. Lake Leak, the low this morning with -2 as temperatures dropped under the clear skies. Hobart, along with Campania, Fingal and Friendly Beach is our high of 18 and all the northern centres 17 today. The southwesterly airstream once again brought a light shower to the west, but only low totals. Flinders Island and Low Head 17 degrees, King Island and Ooze 16, Strawn 15. A 0 start for Lyowini, followed by a high of 12, but it was a good 12, I was told. The western half of Tasmania under the low-level cloud today, contained by the mountain ranges. The east and northeast very clear. More cloud under the highs over Victoria and South Australia. Ex-tropical cyclone Wallace continues to back off the West Australian coast. Plenty of cloud over the top end too, generating thunderstorms. Tomorrow the high is still the main player on our weather. A cold front pushes across the bight during the day. The winds west to southwesterly at 15 to 20 knots, reaching 25 knots over southern waters. There will be an easing later in the day as the high tracks through, turning the winds over to the west coast to be more northwesterly. A frost warning for parts of the Midlands tomorrow. And for the state, Hobart, partly cloudy and 18, 17 for Cygnet, partly cloudy New Norfolk, 18 degrees. Launceston tomorrow, a top of 19, a sunny day, mostly sunny too for Devonport and Campbelltown, both on 18. Burnie, partly cloudy, 18 the high, 16 for Strawn with a light shower, possible light shower for Smithton, 17 the maximum, 17 also for St Helens, but sunny, mostly sunny for Swansea on 18, Fingal a cold start but warming up to 19 later. On Friday, a late shower over the west and King Island, fine elsewhere apart from a patch or two over the central north. Showers on Saturday, although not much over the northeast of the state, and on Sunday, fine over most areas but cloudy, a few showers over the east. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, a sunny 22 in Adelaide, Melbourne and Sydney partly cloudy as well, a possible shower for Brisbane, and sunny in Darwin and 33. And a little cloud over Hobart and Launceston at the moment, clear over Devonport and 12 degrees. Yes, we can't let April 10 go past without celebrating Joanne Leslie Palmer's birthday. So Jo, happy 8th birthday today. Remember, it's a school night, so don't party too hard.
Thank you very much, you're a rummin. All right, have a lovely evening. Thanks for your company. See you a little later. Bye-bye.